Have you been saving up your hard-earned Aeroplan points and hoping to redeem them in the future? Well, Aeroplan's about to make some changes, and just like everything else these days, it's bad news. Things are about to get more expensive. And I always hear people say that Aeroplan points suck and how it's a bad points currency and how it takes so many points to get anywhere. And in this case, could they actually be right? Let's find out. We'll talk about the upcoming Aeroplan changes that are probably going to impact you the most, and then later on towards the end of the video, we'll assess the impact and see how bad this round of Aeroplan changes actually is going to be. The first change, and the one that's going to affect the most people, is the North America to Atlantic chart. Many of the points prices here are going to be increasing. For partner airline flights between 6,000 and 8,000 miles in distance flown, business class redemptions will be going up by 5,000 points, while first class redemptions will be going up by 10,000 points. And for partner flights that are over 8,000 miles in distance, both business class and first class will be going up by 10,000 points. Now, given that these changes are taking place in more of the long-haul sections of the charts, this means that you're more likely to be affected as a North American traveler if you're headed to places like the Middle East, the Maldives, India, and Africa. If you're just going to Europe, you'll probably still fall in the first two distance bands of the chart, so you won't be affected by the increases. And although these aren't the biggest devaluations, with the prices increasing by only 10,000 points, it's still fairly annoying because the Atlantic zone was already quite unfavorably priced compared to the Pacific zone. It was already fairly expensive to use Aeroplan points to go to these places, the Middle East, India, and Africa, and now it's about to get even more expensive if you want to fly in a premium cabin. But that's not the end of the story, because there's also changes coming to the North America to Pacific award charts. And longtime viewers may know that the third distance band here is one of the best sweet spots in the Aeroplan program, with only 85,000 points required right now to fly up to 11,000 miles in distance flown, which encompasses many long-haul destinations like Thailand, Bali, and Singapore. And unfortunately, Aeroplan will be making changes to this sweet spot as well. So the question is, how bad is it going to be? Well, as it turns out, there's going to be a whopping increase to this redemption price point of 2,500 Aeroplan points, from 85,000 points to 87,500 points. So it's not too bad at all, and it makes you wonder why they even bothered making the change. It's like they're just trying to tease us and get us prepared for whatever else they have in store next. Now, none of us know what might be coming up next from Aeroplan, but if you want an insider perspective, then make sure to come to the Travel Summit, which is taking place in Toronto on October 29th and 30th. The Aeroplan executives will be attending in person, and you'll have the opportunity to ask them your questions directly. So if you've ever wanted to know what's coming up from Aeroplan, what features will they be adding, or indeed how brutal will future devaluations be, then make sure to come to the Travel Summit and speak to the Aeroplan executives directly, as well as mingle with your favorite travel creators as well as your fellow travel enthusiasts. There's going to be 24 breakout information sessions across 2 days, lunch provided on both days, a Saturday evening party, and a series of fantastic grand prizes for you to win. And the sooner you buy your ticket, the more prizes you're eligible for. So make sure to get your ticket right now at thetravelsummit.com, and I'll see you there at the Travel Summit on October 29th in Toronto. Now, unfortunately, even though Aeroplan's only teasing us with the changes in the third distance band on the Pacific charts, the fourth distance band, the longest distance, is actually where they're showing less mercy. If you're flying 11,000 miles or more en route to the Pacific zone, you'll actually pay 10,000 more points in both business class and first class. But thankfully, this is only likely to really affect the travelers that are taking the long way around down to Australia. Now, even though all of the changes we've talked about so far have been unfavorable, perhaps it's not all bad news, because there's still some good changes happening to the Aeroplan reward chart at the same time. But as you can imagine, the most popular redemptions are going up in price, and when it comes to the ones that are getting cheaper, they tend to be the ones that are less exciting, less popular, and less interesting in general. It's kind of like the food at your supermarket. The fresh avocados and tropical fruits are all getting more expensive, but at the same time, the supermarket's like, here's a discount on the meat that's about to expire the next day. In the case of Aeroplan's chart, short flights of under 2,500 miles between the Atlantic and the Pacific zones are going to get less expensive by the amounts displayed on screen right now. And this is really only going to apply to flights like Maldives to Singapore or India to Thailand. These flights are currently disproportionately expensive, and they're getting less disproportionately expensive, though ultimately they'll still only apply to a limited set of Aeroplan members. And just to balance things out for good measure here between the Atlantic and Pacific zone charts, for the super long haul flights above 7,000 miles in distance, it's actually also getting more expensive. Though I imagine that unless you're flying a wild goose chase around Asia, this is probably not so relevant to most Aeroplan members either. So now we've touched upon North America, Europe, Middle East, and Asia, but there still feels like something is missing. That's right, Air Canada really said, hey, let's not leave out South America as well, and let's make some changes there just to keep people on their toes. For travel within the South American continent, until now there was only one single distance band, but in the future there will be be 2 distance bands, with flights under 1,600 miles decreasing in cost from the current levels, and flights over 1,600 miles increasing slightly from the current levels. So if you've been thinking about using Aeroplan points from Sao Paulo to Buenos Aires, then you're in luck. But if you've been wanting to fly from Bogota to Santiago, then be prepared to pay more. And I wouldn't really say that Aeroplan points have taken a huge hit to their value as a result of these changes, because it's still going to be the best way for Canadians to rack up the points and travel the world in style. However, it is fairly annoying that we're seeing these changes happening so soon after the new program relaunched in November 2020, and there's quite a few popular redemptions that are increasing in price, which means we'll have to work just a little bit harder to make sure that those redemptions are still within reach when it's time to book. Speaking of which, when are these changes actually happening? Well, the date that it's all taking place is September 1st, 2022, and the new prices apply for any tickets issued or reissued after that date. Which means that even if you were to make a booking right now and change it after September 1st, you'll still pay the new price. So you'll definitely want to think about which of the price points that are increasing are you most interested in booking and locking in some bookings before September 1st. Now, even though this round of Aeroplan changes is fairly minor and it's perhaps not the end of the world, that may not be true the next time there's a major devaluation to a loyalty program. So make sure to watch this video next to find out the sweet spots that you have to book right now to secure excellent value for your points in case they devalue in the future because they're just too good to be true.